The Tigers pitching staff has been struggling mightily as of late. Is there a way to fix it? We'll talk about that and more all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Tuesday, September 9th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen. Every single day, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. Welcome all. Happy Tuesday, everybody. The Tigers did not play on Monday, an off day. I don't think they play on a Monday the rest of the season. I think last week was the last time that your Detroit Tigers play on a Monday the rest of the regular season. So we'll have a lot of conversations, starting to look ahead and talking about how the Tigers will prepare for these meaningful games at the end of September and hopefully into October. Today, we start that series of questions with the pitching staff. There are certainly some players on the offensive side of the ball that you can point to and say, maybe their stats are going down. They're struggling lately. I don't trust them in like high leverage. Will they perform in the playoffs? X, Y, and Z, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the offense as a whole, I guess I shouldn't say what you're going to get because it's baseball and that's kind of ridiculous. And they certainly don't have like some overpowering high-end elite offense by any stretch of the imagination. But I think that the offense is at least at a place where when they do poorly, you understand why. And when they do well, you understand why, right? They're a deep lineup that can affect the game in a lot of different ways, is aggressive on the base paths, etc. They have a lot of league average or slightly above league average hitters, and that's something that not a ton of teams can offer, which is where they found their success. The pitching is just brutal. I don't know how else to really word it. The pitching since the All Star break has been really whatever one step better than atrocious is. And the reason I say that is because the Rockies team, ERA since the All Star break is like 7, and the Tigers aren't there. But I think that it's important to kind of lay out, okay, who is struggling? It's really everybody. Why are they struggling? Is there any way to fix it? On yesterday's show, I literally said the organization is kind of just hoping for people, a handful of players to figure it out. We'll talk about if maybe there's a more articulate way of, highlighting what they could do to fix it. Pitching chaos is probably the answer. I'll spoil it up front. Not very good journalism, but I'm a man of the people, okay? So I think that there is still a lot to go over and kind of to, again, I guess, game plan how the rest of this season looks. The starting rotation since the All Star break has not been good. Bottom 9 starting pitcher ERA in baseball since the All Star game was played. The only thing preventing it from being like the worst or second to worst is a combination of two things. It's Tarik Skubal, who has a 1.83 ERA since the All Star break. And it's the fact that the Colorado Rockies team ERA for starters is pushing 8. Okay? Those two things helping drive the Tigers up these lists. But we look at everybody else. Again, these numbers are all since the All Star game. I believe that's like July. It was a Tuesday, July 16th, 15th, some Tuesday in July. Jack Flaherty, 5.28, and that is the best, pretty comfortably the best of the group. Casey Mize is at 5.59, and that is after 5 innings of what? 1-run ball, shutout ball, whatever he did last time out. My memory is terrible. Charlie Morton, 6.09, and Chris Paddock is 5.4 as a starter since the All Star break. Obviously, they acquired him just before the deadline, so since the deadline. However, he also has a couple innings of bullpen work where he has gotten absolutely rocked, which means his Tigers ERA is over 6. Sawyer Gibson-Long has 1 start in there. He got rocked in that one. Cater Montero has 2 starts since the All Star break. He got rocked in both of them. His ERA is almost 10. So, bleak, I think, would be the way to word it. Now let's move on to the bullpen. The bullpen ERA since the All Star break is not awful. Okay. It's solid, but it is sliding. A couple of weeks ago, it was stellar. Now it's outside of the top 10, kind of a middle of the road bullpen. And we talked about this at the time. And I know some people don't care about predictive stats or underlying numbers, metrics that kind of help predict what what stats could look like going forward. But we said at the time, right? We said 3 weeks ago that the bullpen's numbers since the break may be good, but the underlying metrics are terrible. And sure enough, the numbers are sliding and the metrics are still terrible. The peripherals stink because they don't strike anybody out and they give up hard contact and fly balls. Bottom 6 FIP in baseball, bullpen FIP in baseball since the break. Bottom 6 in bullpen WAR since the break. Also, even if you dismiss the underlying metrics, if you don't like FIP, you don't like numbers, whatever, that's fine. Okay. Everybody takes in baseball different. I want to, accommodate all types of fans. That's totally fine. This bullpen ERA is also being significantly carried by Kyle Finnegan, who has not allowed a run since becoming a Detroit Tiger, and Brant Herter, who had a 0.0 ERA in 14 and a third innings since the All Star break. Between the two of them, that's comfortably over 20 innings of 0 ERA baseball. That's 2 guys, wait for it, that aren't in the Major League bullpen right now. Herter is hurt in AAA. Finnegan's hurt in the majors. Paddock is now a reliever. He has not been very good, so he's now a part of that bullpen rather than the rotation struggles. Tommy Kahnle, 5.51 ERA since the All-Star break. Tyler Holton, a 3.98 ERA, which isn't terrible, but the underlying numbers are. His FIP is not very good. It's around 5. Will Vest, a 3.5 ERA. That's not bad, but that's also what, is he your highest leverage reliever? Yes. I trust Will Vest. I'm not trying to turn this into some anti-Will Vest narrative. Okay, I'm just saying that they don't have a dominant shutdown guy without Finnegan. Rafael Montero, 2.4 ERA. Underlying numbers stink. And the reason why is because he still walks everybody. I've seen people post, his numbers have been really good over the last couple of weeks. His walk rate is still really bad. And I don't want that necessarily in high leverage. Now, if, we're debating between, it kind of puts you between a rock and a hard place, I'd still take him over the performance of some of the other guys lately. But that's not the bar to be a playoff bullpen. Hannafy, Horn, they kind of are what they are. They haven't been bad since the break, certainly. But I think we kind of know what we're getting out of them. And then Troy Melton in the bullpen had a rough outing his last time out, but besides that has been pretty solid. And he can give you multiple innings too, which is going to be really important, as we'll talk about later. So that's how your pen looks. That's how your rotation looks. There's also kind of the revolving door of Chase Lee, Drew Summers, Alex Lang, Brant Herter, hopefully when he gets healthy again. And then a lot of multi-inning guys that will kind of lean into the pitching chaos theory that we'll talk about right after this. Got to talk to y'all about our friends over at GameTime. GameTime is the best. We love our good friends over at GameTime. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live, the energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but actually getting the tickets, well, that's the tough part, right? Queues, login, screens, surprise fees. It takes all the fun right out of it. That's why I use GameTime, the app that gives you the advantage back to, again, you and the fans. GameTime is fast, easy, and backed by the GameTime guarantee, so you'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download GameTime today. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back tomorrow, as you know, recapping Game 1 of the series against the New York Yankees. Today, though, we talk about how to fix this pitching scenario. This pitching situation that the Tigers find themselves in. Talking before the break a little bit about some of the numbers of the players we do have. Let's talk about some of the players that the Major League team does not have, and if we will maybe see any of them helping the Major League team down the stretch here. Alex Cobb, done for the year. You will not see Alex Cobb in a Detroit Tigers uniform this season. I think there's a really solid chance he retires. He mentioned that it's a possibility, but he's not ready to say that, at the present moment. That feels totally fair. This was clearly a big failure of a signing. I don't think Alex Cobb disagrees. I don't think Scott Harris should disagree with that. That's $15 million on a one-year deal, and he didn't throw a single inning for the Major League team that desperately needs starting pitching and pitching depth in general. Some people might scoff at this, but this team really could have used a healthy Alex Cobb this year. His numbers over the last 2 or 3 seasons when he is on the mound have been really good. He just hasn't been on the mound. I don't like this stinks. I feel bad for him really a lot. Obviously, and again, as I mentioned, the Tigers certainly hurt because of this. They certainly could have used him. I also don't think that this is like the worst signing in the history of baseball. Like it's a year deal. Okay. It's a year deal. It's a wash. This didn't hinder you long-term. It certainly didn't really hinder the team even this year. They have one of the better records in the American League and are, barring a catastrophe down the stretch here, going to make the postseason. But there were certainly better ways to utilize $15 million last winter, especially in, whatever the budget is that ownership gives this front office every offseason. So not going to see Alex Cobb. He will not be coming to save the day. Reese Olson, I think there was a belief out there that he was kind of going to be somebody to help save this pitching staff. He may return, but it really does not sound like it will be as a starter. Evan Petzold of The Free put out a great update in regards to Reese Olson and Jose Urquidy that I will reference a lot and use a lot of the information from that in the rest of today's show. But I know that we were all holding out hope for him to be back in the postseason. I think the organization still is. I think Reese Olson still is. But if he does, it really does sound like it will not be as a starting pitcher. So that means the best case scenario in regards to Olson is, well, I, I guess that also leads into it doesn't sound like he will be back like right when the playoffs start either. I think the terminology Petzold used was they are hoping that he can be back if the Tigers make, quote, a deep run in the playoffs. So it sounds like the best case scenario is you are getting Reese Olson back in like the ALCS as a reliever. And that's best case scenario. I think there's a very realistic scenario that he just does not pitch for the Tigers, even if the Tigers make Game 7 of the World Series, that he never pitches in the postseason. That is very far from a guarantee. Now, that doesn't even, bring into play you have to win those series to make it that far. This is strictly just what is the timeline for Reese Olson. Again, not great considering the Tigers' rotation. Okay, so then we go to Jose Urquidy, was a starter. Tommy John, where does he fit into this mix? Also, unfortunately, doesn't seem like he's going to be a starter. He does seem pretty close to returning, for whatever that's worth. I think that this is an arm that does have the ability to help the Tigers. His most recent rehab outing was 3 innings of perfect baseball with 3 strikeouts in AAA Toledo. There was also an uptick in velocity in that outing. He's now sitting fastball over a little bit over 94 miles an hour, touched that a couple of times. AJ Hinch's quote was, "We like what we see." So everyone is pretty pleased with where he's at. He still has another, I think it's on Tuesday, actually, today as you listen to this. He has another rehab appearance scheduled. So he will not be available in the Yankees series, but I don't know, like they're also in Miami. They're still on the road there this weekend. They do come back home and have after their off day next Monday. So maybe he can be in line to join the team then. Can be on the team for the last couple of weeks of the season in the playoffs if they need it. But I think this all kind of points to the return of pitching chaos to maybe a little bit of a lesser extent from last year. Cater Montero on the Major League roster, Sir Gibson Long on the Major League roster, Jose Urquidy joining the team soon potentially, Chris Paddock now in the bullpen, Troy Melton in the bullpen, Reese Olson again, potentially best case scenario in the bullpen in the playoffs. This team is, I think, just going to patch it together with multi-inning relievers and then the high leverage guys in the back end. It doesn't even sound like they're going to name a 5th starter. So that's why I bring this up, and I have this show today kind of dedicated to that, is the notion that, and the information rather, that the organization put out where there probably aren't going to have a solidified 5th starter every day now that spot's open and void. They'll still have Skubal. Flaherty will obviously still be in the rotation, even though his ERA is over 5 since the break. And then like Morton, I guess. And then Mize, obviously. But I think we were starting to already see that, right? We're already starting to see that with these guys. Morton threw 3 innings. Flaherty threw 4 innings. Mize only had 1 run against through 5 innings. They're just going to load the bullpen up with guys that can go multiple innings. And between the starters, those guys, and then the high leverage, Will Vest and hopefully Kyle Finnegan here at some point this season, Tyler Holton's at the end of the pen, can make shift and kind of patch their way through the rest of the regular season. And obviously the hope is into the postseason. So that's where they're going to get innings from. The question that now is on everybody's mind is, will they actually be good innings? I can go out there and pitch 5 innings. I'm just going to give up, 80 runs. So we'll see. Want to talk about something positive here. I feel like the last couple of episodes have been all like doom and gloom. This is still a first place team with a very large lead. And Again, barring an epic collapse of just preposterous proportions, some alliteration there, will be in the postseason and will be taking home an AL Central crown. There's also a lot of good stuff happening in the minor league system. The West Michigan Whitecaps finished their regular season officially over as of this past weekend, with 92 wins and a 702 win percentage. There's been some great articles out there about this team putting up a historic 702 win percentage. This is legitimately one of the best records that any minor league team has ever had in the history of the Detroit Tigers organization, and also is one of the best winning percentages that any minor league team has had in the history of minor league baseball. Like it is up there with some of the most dominant minor league teams we've ever seen. And I think that that's really, really cool. The coolest part to me is actually the second half. The first half, they had McGonigal, Clark, Lorenzo. They had some really good pitchers. Miller spent a lot of time there this year. Like they really were loaded up with talent, even after the big three of McGonigal, Clark, Lorenzo get promoted to Double-A. They still kept winning at a crazy good clip. And I think that that's almost more telling than what they did with some of the best prospects in baseball. So tip of the cap to the Whitecaps. Postseason play starts this week. The Whitecaps will certainly be in it. And yeah, some fun stuff. I mean, the Erie Seawolves will be playing some playoff baseball. That'll be exciting. There's a lot of still really fun minor league baseball left to play, even though the regular season is coming down to an end here across the system. So 2 thumbs up. Great job. Has obviously been a massive success of the Scott Harris era, has been kind of the development and the improvement of the minor league system. We'll see if that can maintain throughout the postseason and into the offseason. Let's preview this series against the New York Yankees at the major league level. We'll do that right after this. First, though, got to talk to you about our friends over at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up with leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. It's the perfect thing for heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smarter categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. So, don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off of your first year. That's 50% off of your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, the Tigers go to the Bronx and face the Bombers there in New York. It's, as I said in yesterday's show, you lose a series to the White Sox, it's only going to get harder from here on out. You're not going to get easier than the White Sox for the rest of this season. The Yankees kind of had a weird second half. I know their fan base has reacted very heavily, we'll say, with kind of the ups and the downs of the season, very similar to how we have done here. The Yankees were losing games just left and right coming out of the trade deadline to start off August. Just had a really, really rough start. The deadline acquisitions weren't looking like they were helping too much. And now over the last 3 weeks have gotten right back to winning a lot of baseball games. The 7-3 in their last 10. They have the 5th best starting pitcher ERA since the All Star break. They have the highest walk rate in baseball from an offense since the All Star break. For the record, the Tigers have the 4th highest K rate from an offense since the break and the 6th lowest walk rate. since the break. So kind of the opposite of dominating the strike zone, if you will. But yeah, this is a Yankees team that is a top 10 offense and a top 10 pitching staff since the halfway point in the season. Now, the cracks in the armor are from the bullpen. Bottom 7 bullpen ERA. That is your, again, all since the break. That is your opportunity to kind of pounce. But yeah, like you not only have a team that's pretty good over there in the Yankees, this is the start of a 6-game road trip, and you don't have any days off mixed in there. So it's not going to be a cakewalk. Starting pitching matchups, you have Casey Mize against Will Warren today in game 1, Jack Flaherty against Carlos Rodon in game 2, and TBD, we're assuming that's going to be a pitching chaos day, against Cam Schlittler in game 3. So, and I mean, all 3 of those guys have been fantastic, actually, since the break. All 3 have an ERA in between 3 and 3.5 since the All Star break. So, yeah, like your offense is going to have to show up, and you're going to need to get some pitching because Skubal is not going in this series. The Yankees are 80-64 at the time that I record this. I don't know if they play on Monday or not, but I'm recording certainly before they would play on Monday. The Tigers are 82-62 going into this. This is also a really important series just for division standing for the Yankees, for seeding in the American League. The Yankees are 2 games back from the Blue Jays as it stands right now. So really big for them, again, in terms of the difference between being a wild card team and then winning the American League East could be the difference between, being the number 1 overall seed and playing in the wild card round. So really important games the rest of the season for them. And if the Yankees beat you, 2 or 3 times, then they could certainly catch Toronto and make the end of the season interesting for them. But hopefully the Tigers don't let that happen. Go win a series. Hopefully Mize can build on his last start. Hopefully pitching chaos works to the team's benefit. And hopefully the offense can get going against some pitching that's been pretty solid. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back tomorrow recapping game 1 against the Yankees. Of course, talking about anything else that happens in the Tigers organization as well. After you make us your first listen, make Locked On MLB Game Night your second listen. Every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope, and I'll catch y'all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.